get a couple times I got brought in to Norwalk Sheriff for, being on the street, ditching school, or, who knows whatever. They're taking us in a lot. The narco police, back then they would wear like a green jacket.
Yeah.
They would just like say LA Sheriff on it, like, jeans and a green jacket and driving Novas. I was always driving Novas and shit. And, they would just bust us on the street, take us in, and then they would take you to the gang part, make you look at a scrapbook. I had a lot of my friends in there, and just, oh yeah, and I know that guy from school, but don't really know him, and I had an alias too. Like I have Dusty on my arm, but I would go by D-Bone. That was like my name my friends gave me, not a name I gave myself, just because I'm thin, I'm skinny. So my black friends pretty much just always call me D-Bone and shit, and that was my tagging name. But every time I would ever get busted, I would just say, oh, my name's Dusty. Like you have to have a kind of an alias if you're going to be tagging on walls and shit, But yeah, at the end, once they start showing your friends in a gang book, and also they had a map of Norwalk, and they had the little area we hung out there right on Patterson as like our little neighborhood, that it's over, and then eventually I got carjacked, in the one ways. It just, it was all for a reason that I probably moved here, and eventually I had 4 friends who were murdered, one that committed suicide, and also, one thing I forget is another group of dudes that hung out with us a lot was the Norwalk Manor. I don't know if you're familiar with the Norwalk Manor at all.
Is it an apartment complex?
It's by John Glenn High School.
Yep, I know exactly what it is. Yeah, very familiar.
And right next to the YA, right next to the YA.
Yep.
Yeah, so that
where they bring you in, right? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Go ahead, keep going.
Yes. So I guess this was a condominium complex at one time or another that didn't get sold, and the city bought it, and they just made it into like a project basically. And back then, a lot of the guys from the manor used to sell crack in there. It was like a drive-through basically. And that gang was also mixed with blacks and Mexicans and shit, and Samoans and whites, just like us. But they were before us and shit, the Norwalk Manor. They eventually became the Norwalk Manor gang, but at the time they were called Norwalk Manor Boys. Well, I used to break with a couple of dudes from there. And when I got kicked out of Norwalk High School, I went to John Glenn. for a semester. And thank God I knew those dudes, because I ended up just hanging out with a bunch of dudes from the manor. And so those guys became our allies pretty much. Like we're 2 of the groups in Norwalk that both had a mixed race, group of people. So yeah, I don't ever want to leave the Norwalk Manor out of that, because I had a lot of buddies from there too that were just like us. You know what I mean? We're like kind of fluid with each other and shit. But yeah, man. Crazy talking about this shit.
Yeah, I love it, man, because it's taking me back, dude. I'm 47, so I'm.
Oh shit, you're right behind me. I'm 53, so yeah, you're right behind me. I mean, when I lived in LA, it was 213.
Yeah, my first number was 213, literally, and then it went to 562. Yep, my first number was 213.
Yeah, I actually think there was an area code right before 562 too. I mean, there was like 213, and I think there was some other area code they dropped in there for a second, and then I turned into 562 or something. Yeah, but yeah, 213, man. Well, at that time, that was all of LA. It was 213, which is kind of crazy to think now, So a lot of dudes would get 213 tattoos, and you could get those, has a 13 in it and everything, but you can still get it and not be a gangbanger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not a Sur 13. I never got any of that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like the tattoos I have nothing like that on it, because that's gangbanger shit. But
yeah,
that's some serious stuff. Well, it is. You know what I mean? Like.
Yep, of course, dude. Hey, I want to ask you about something specifically. I'm wondering if you have any stories, and this is a place I frequented a lot just to get my shoes and stuff like that, and some goldfish and a snake and shit. But did you ever go, was the Norwalk swap meet big back then, or was it even around?
The Norwalk Indoor?
Yeah. The one that they shut a few years ago.
Yeah, the Norwalk Indoor opened up probably in the mid-'80s. And yeah, it was a big deal, because before that, I used to go to Compton Indoor.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the big indoor, and you take the RTD on Rosecrans all the way there.
Dangerous.
Yeah, the rough, tough, and dangerous, bro. I used to. Well, a lot of my black friends, they were from Compton, so they would be like, they want to show off. Right, let's go to Compton Indoor, and we'd get all our hats made there, A-Ball Posse hats. Like a lot of dudes used to wear in A-Ball Posse, we were Pittsburgh Steeler hats.
Okay.
And just put a 8BP in front of the P, and then put a posse on the side. Like even in that picture I have, one of my homies right there, one of my homies, P-Dog. He has one of those hats. Both those guys have Pittsburgh hats. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot we used to get these Pittsburgh hats. And, that swap meet, that particular swap meet, Compton Indoor, was all Koreans. You know what I mean? Well, the Koreans own most of the stands and shit. We'd go in there and the guy would be like, Posse! Oh my God, Posse! Because we'd go in there and spend money and shit, The Norwalk Indoor was like kind of a knockoff of that, And I have a fucked up story that I lost $300 in that in Norwalk Indoor one time. I was just moving to Phoenix. I was gonna buy some fucking gear in there, and I don't know. I probably got pickpocketed. Who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? How do you lose $300? I don't know, but that's one of my stories from Norwalk Indoor. But you know what other swap meet, man? Fucking the Norwalk swap meet, but now it's called Santa Fe Spring swap meet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that was a big deal going there,
man. Not every Sunday. I go there sometime on Sundays to have a beer and check out the bands.
Yeah, dude. Like back then, like it was a big event. You know, it's like they would have like fucking like a band or something, a bunch of taco trucks. You know, it's probably like a more shitty than it is now. You know, I went there probably 6 years ago and seen a Metallica cover band with some of my cousins or something. I just happened to be in Norwalk, and one of my cousins was like, "Hey, just go to the fucking swap meet and check out like some bands or something." I was like, "All right, cool." And it was still fucking jumping, man. It was still fucking live, you know, like, yeah.
Good times, homie, good times. Hey, if you're ever next time you come to Norwalk, man, give me a heads up, and I'd love to link up with you and maybe even just go around the city with you and do a live version of this where, you know what I'm saying, you say, hey, this is where we hung out, this is where this happened, this is where I got arrested, this is where, you know, whatever, you know, so we'll talk more about that offline, man, because I definitely, I like doing the live aspect of things as well, especially when it's a town that I'm very familiar with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro, I was all over that city. Like, I just barely got on that Norwalk thing probably 6 months ago or something. And, you know, it's pretty cool because they'll show you pretty much all the shit they show on there. It's like, oh, yeah, I remember there's so many days. Like, hey, do you remember Spire's Restaurant? And I was like, yeah, I used to fucking work there. I used to be a host there for 2 years. It's like one of the worst jobs I ever had, you know, like, you know, like the Saddleback, the fucking, fucking Tommy Burger.
Shit.
When there's a Tommy Burger, and then there was a fucking Chinese dude or an Asian dude that opened up a Tommy Burger Jr. or something right down the street. Yep. I don't know if you remember this shit.
I remember Tommy Burger Jr.
You know? Yeah, Tommy Burger Jr. right outside the one ways and shit. Yeah. And then the other thing I brought up on there too about the one ways is there was a liquor store in there called La Lupita, right? I'm not even sure this place existed. It was an Asian market, but as a 15-year-old, you could go in there and buy 40 ounces. They didn't give a fuck. But I mean, you had to risk your life going in there. You know, like I would be across the street at Excelsior and fucking look over there to make sure there's no cholos over there. You know, if I had fucking, if I had binoculars, I'd be using those. But we were just like trying to scout, like, is there any, no, just fucking run over there real quick. It's some 40 ounces and shit. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was a big deal too. 40 ounces, man.
Thank you for tuning in to Dusty Vision TV. Please hit that like button if you have not already. And if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, you just might appreciate this bonus clip I'm about to play for you right now.
I do believe that there's got to be credit given to black people with music and stuff, and like, for example, with country, right? Country, a lot of people didn't know that was made by black people.
Oh, of course,
started
Muddy Waters and all those guys. They created that sound that eventually morphed into country. I mean,
and now that Beyonce is doing country, you know, I don't know if she's doing already country, but I know there was like a big.
Isn't that crazy? Black people shouldn't be doing country, motherfuckers. We invented country. They don't even like dog. All that shit was stolen.
But check this out. She tried to do, or she had in mind to do country a couple of years ago. I don't know, like a lot of people didn't know, or it was in the process. But there was people. I mean, without respect to white people and all that, you know. But you got to give respect to black people, you know. But people were saying that they were making a big fuss, like, no, you know, this and that, or she's gonna make country. Come on, you know. But it's like, don't, you know, if people let you borrow, like, for example, rock and roll, black people made it. But people think it's only
Berry, man. I mean, he was one of the originators, if not the first guy who made. And then who's those guys that did Surfing USA? They end up stealing his shit bar for bar. Beach Boys.
Elvis got a lot of stuff from Little Richie. I mean,
all that stuff, homie. They would go to juke joints. They would go to juke joints in like small towns of Tennessee and stuff like that. They go to these little juke joints, what we would call a dive bar, and they would go to these juke joints where these black artists were playing blues that the locals loved. No one else knew about it, but the locals loved. So yes, the white man would go there. He'd bring his little phonograph, or he'd bring something along those lines, and record the music and take it to artists like Elvis Presley and others so they can blow it up.
like the Elvis Presley movie that they made recently. I couldn't even watch it anymore, but they made it seem oh, it's like Elvis music was the devil. Oh, that's devil's music. That's devil's music. I'm like, you guys know damn well what you guys are trying to say by devil's music. You know what I mean?
Black people music.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just trying to disrespect anybody, but at the same time, it does piss me off. When they try to, they don't give recognition, props. So going back to Tariq Nasheed's documentary, bro, like it's good that he's doing that because people are getting mad. I don't know if Fat Joe's getting mad. People, some Latinos, Puerto Ricans. Shout out to my Puerto Rican Latino brothers from the East Coast. Nothing against them. It's just, to me, when it comes to culture of popping and stuff, hip hop it's very important to me. So this documentary, I'm not trying to promote it. I don't know Tariq Nasheed. You know what I mean, in person or nothing like that. But it's very important because you should always question things. Then don't ever allow somebody to tell your narrative. And this goes to my Latinos too. You know what I mean? And everybody, not just Latinos. Don't let other people tell your narrative or your culture.
I think Tariq Nasheed is very intelligent. I enjoy his content.
Yeah.
I do believe he is trying to say with his documentary that Black people are the sole creators of hip hop. I do believe. If I'm wrong, correct me. But if that is the case, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with Tariq Nasheed, because I personally believe that Hispanics were there along the way. We don't know who created what first. We don't know who created this first. We can go back 100 years and just keep saying that was the first time someone rhymed together, and the first time someone did a backslide, and the first time someone did this or that. We can go back years. But I know too many Puerto Ricans, too many Dominicans, especially in their 50s and 60s, and people forget that the Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, they come in all different colors.
Well, I do believe there was like a huge influence. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? There was without Puerto Ricans, they wouldn't have been the what it is. You know what I mean?
And I just think I don't like the fact that they're just completely. And I think, if I'm mistaken, once again, for Tariq Nasheed, forgive me, but I think he's literally trying to cut them out completely. If that's the case, then I got to respectfully disagree, because we don't know. Back then, like, I know Puerto Ricans who are darker than my father, who is about as black as Wesley Snipes, and I know Dominicans who are darker. So, like, and people forget Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, a lot of them identify as black.
I knew Chabadu, rest in peace, because that came to mind. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to get involved.
His last name is Quinones.
Quinones, yeah. I think if he would have been here with us, he would have been able to tell us like the true history behind it.
If you look at a picture of him, he looks like a light-skinned black man. You know what I'm saying? But his last name is Quinones. I just can't completely cut out my Latino homies out of this one, man. I love my black brothers. I love myself. I love hip hop. And I know, just even for me, going back, all the ways that I got introduced to hip hop was through Latinos.
And I might say, I'm not trying to discredit or going against that. And there is a huge influence, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm with you on that. Like if he's trying to erase the Latinos from there, be like, oh, it was only us, and this and that. That's that's a different.
Yeah. But shout out to Tariq Nasheed. I'm looking forward to that documentary. I'm because I'm just a hip hop lover. I love hip hop, so I can't wait.
The guy's funny, man. The guy's funny, entertaining. And there's a lot of not controversial stuff, but he's got his thing. He's got his thing going on.